Name
William Speirs,
and the company that you
G87th,
and the dates of service in the 10th Mountain Division.
July of 1942 to discharge in September of 1945.
Is there any chance you remember your serial number?
393-77451.
That's impressive. How about your highest rank served?
T5.
Now, you told me that you initially were a company clerk. Tell me how you used those skills as being a company clerk to get into the 10th.
This bulletin came down that they were forming the regimental combat team at Fort Lewis, Washington. That alerted me to get near home. My motive primarily was to get near home, not particularly the 10th, because that was also an infantry, or not the 10th, but 87th. That also, but, you know, I had a girlfriend. And that's the reason. And I typed up this wonderful paper that I'd climbed all the major peaks in the Northwest. I did belong to the Mount Baker Ski Club, which was a Bellingham ski club, Mount Baker being the closest peak. Did some hiking in the Olympics, did some hiking around Mount Rainier. Being a Boy Scout, went on excursions in the mountains quite a bit. I knew how to ski very, very little. Hans Snyder came out one winter and showed us how to snowplow. We thought we were delighted. Hans Snyder at Mount Baker. Mount Baker Ski Club had a little hut, and for $1 we could sleep overnight and had stew and breakfast for $1.
So, as company clerk, how did you engineer your transfer into the 10th?
I wrote this resume, so to speak, and then slipped it under with other papers. The captain had to sign papers every day, you know, about stuff. And then took my paper out, and the major, the battalion had to, okay, same procedure. Regimental, I knew the clerks, so I said, here, I put this in with your other stuff and have the colonel sign it. Had the colonel's signature on it. I knew the secretary to General Patton. This was the 2nd Armored Division. And he had had a business school training, and he was an expert in shorthand. That's why Patton grabbed him. He was a draftee, and I met him on the train, and we did basic training together. He was the only ranking first I'd ever seen. He was a PFC with a master sergeant's pay, and they called him a first. And he was basically a stenographer for General Patton. And I told him, here, I want this signed. He got it signed, and in the meantime, I got yellow jaundice from yellow fever shots, along with many others, a bum batch. Ended up in the hospital. And they were getting ready to stage it to go overseas to Africa. The first sergeant called me, a veteran of World War I, and says, how in the hell did you get a transfer to the 87th? And I said, well, I'm very skilled, and they accepted me. And he said, well, we're going overseas. You've been transferred. I sure got well in a hurry.
Mic down, please.
Mic down. You know, you had something I thought that really caught my ear about your time in Italy. And you said that you... Wait, let's wait for this.
Okay, honey, it's lovely.
Okay. You said that how did you make your way through Italy?
Oh, I literally dug my way from the Apennine Mountains to the Alps here at the end of Lake Garda, although our company ended up in behind the lake and not along the shore. We were up in the cliffs behind.
So you dug your way through Italy.
Yes. I was little, and I was scared, and I was quick, and I could duck a bullet.
And did you keep that up throughout the entire war? Were you ever injured?
Shrapnel, but I didn't even know it, in the cheek, and it's still there. But I didn't even realize it. And shrapnel in the butt. I just tore my pants, put a patch on it. That was it.
What was your most memorable experience during the battles and during the war?
I was here at Lake Garda, I think, and they declared the end of it. And I walked by myself down the lake. And I thank God. I was so grateful that it was over. That was my best experience. And the others, I had many narrow escapes, as all of us did that survived. And sometimes you don't know why. Because buddies were killed and I wasn't.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us?
I might make this statement, being the male orderly. We had to write on the letter that if they were killed in action, the KIA, and then returned. And so the powers that be thought that was a little brutal. So we changed it by writing, as addressee reported deceased. And that was a little kinder message on the outside of the envelope. This was within the company, G Company. We suffered heavily the first night jumping off at Belvedere out of Coca-Cola, as we called it. I think we lost 24 men that night. And then we suffered a tragic loss just before we approached the Poe River. We'd walked 32 miles in 24 hours, and we was there about 8:30. And there was a farmhouse, and the Italian women were cooking eggs for us. We were all milling around there, and I heard a shell come over and land behind the barn, and I went out there and looked, and there was a big hole. And so I went back in, and I told the first sergeant, they might zero in on this. I'm getting the hell out of here. As I went outside, another one came in, and I got into a bunker, and this shell landed right where those guys were. And Lieutenant Jaswinski was killed, a fellow by the name of Green, and probably a dozen wounded just from that shell fragment.
One shell can do a lot of damage.
Yes. And then up here at the last, we were up in the ridges and back, and a very, very fine soldier by the name of Golden was given a field commission. They had to report for little training somewhere back, and he'd come back to the company just the day before that. And here he was, a field commission lieutenant, and he was wounded, and one man killed. That was the last man in our company that was killed. And his name is on that list that we passed out.
Anything else?
Not that I,
Good.
unless you have some other questions.
That was very good. It's interesting, if you lose 24 people,
The whole